Hello, everybody, and welcome to What's the Story podcast. This is WTS 301.
Danny, how long are we going to... Where are we going to get to? 2000?
Who knows, man? Who knows?
What are your expectations?
I don't live
Just
life
keep
with
going until
expectations.
where OAP is.
The only expectations I have, Graham, is that Cadbury's continue to produce these bad boys at Christmas.
Puds! Are they any use?
Unreal, these little balls of chocolatey goodness. Unreal, man.
OMG.
Unreal. So long as Cadbury's keep producing these delicious dairy milk chocolate balls with a truffle center and hazelnut pieces with Rice Krispies in them, I'll be a
There's
very
Rice
happy
Krispies in
person.
them?
They're fucking, I tell you what, Cadbury's have, if anybody from Cadbury's is listening, hey.
Are they new or have they been out before?
I don't know how long they're out. Last Christmas was the first time that I sampled the goods. And yeah, this Christmas when I saw them again, I was like, I remember having one of them last year. It was sensational. I'm going to get myself a little packet of them.
I must check them out the weekend. All right, so are you saying as long as they're going, the podcast will go?
The only expectation I have in life is that Cadbury's keep producing them. I'd no
You sound like a
expectation.
politician. Is this the slow breakup of the
No.
pod?
Absolutely not, Graham. We'll keep going. But what I'm saying, I don't have an expectation towards a number, right? Like, we'll just keep going.
I've got a
end in
segue
sight.
here. I've got to say, I'm delighted to hear. I've got a segue here.
Go for
Whilst we're waiting around and staying around, as we record this evening, the FAI have announced that Stephen Kenny's contract will not be renewed, so he will not be staying around as the Ireland senior team manager.
I mean, it's hardly a shock.
It's hardly a shock. I think the next manager has a better shape of a squad thanks to Stephen. I mean, when Stephen took over, the average age I think was 30, 31, and now it's probably about 23, 22, 23, 24 maybe. So I think he's left it in a better shape, but ultimately results weren't there.
That's it.
When you look at the results against Ukraine, Armenia, home and away to Greece,
yeah.
I mean, I wanted it to work out. I really did. I was a Stephen Kenny supporter.
I think everyone did.
But it's no surprise. But I would thank him for his service.
I was going to say, I think the reality here is that Stephen was always going to be a transient manager. He was never going to be long term, and I think his role will only be appreciated in the fullness of time. And what I mean by that is success didn't come across his doorstep. However, what he has done ultimately leaves Irish football in a better place, and will hopefully,
I think he has as well.
Will hopefully be a key part of success in the next decade. And I think when Ireland get to their next big tournament, and if they happen to go on a good run, it will be with Kenny's kids. It will be with the guys that Kenny has brought through and has been influential in terms of connecting the dots of the underage system and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So results, absolutely, they weren't good enough, and that's a pity. You know, Stephen Kenny seems like a nice guy more than anything. But just performance on the pitch and results ultimately weren't good enough. But the work he's done, I genuinely do believe in the fullness of time will be remembered and appreciated.
I agree. And you're kind of looking like, I mean, you're kind of looking around at the favourites to take over, and you're looking at the likes of Neil Lennon and Sam Allardyce. And I mean, the FAI have the director of football, Mark Canham, and they have the underage teams, 21s, 19s, 17s, 15s. They all have them playing the same style of football. So none of those managers that have been mentioned so far, or would be managers, they don't inspire me to apply the same style of football that the FAI want to bring in. You know, they don't. Will someone ask me, are we just better off going back to long ball football? You know, I don't think the senior team should be playing long ball football if the underage teams are playing from the back. Do you know that
So
way?
right, so but I don't like playing from the back. Look, right, football evolves and different styles come along and different styles go away, and you know what I mean. Like, not every team can play from the back. Look at Manchester United Football Club, and when they try to play from the back, it's fucking horrific, right?
Probably
Like
not a good example because they're absolutely a shit show at the
they,
moment.
they are an absolutely shit show, but the Irish football team aren't exactly filled with talent, so it's not a million
Yeah,
miles off in terms of comparison at level,
fair
right?
enough. Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I think the reality here is right, and it's been the age-old argument with the Irish national team, and it's that kind of thing of like with limited resources and limited talent, results you take what you can get with whatever way you get them, right? There has been a bit of a move to try and make the football more attractive, which I think people will have a certain amount of patience for and a certain willingness. But this Stephen Kenny experiment has shown that even with the greatest will in the world, and even with people insisting that the style of football is what they want to see, the style of football when you're drawing 1-1 with fucking New Zealand at home,
yeah,
it means absolutely fuck all because you want the result. The style of
yeah. And like,
football,
having said that as well, when we played the Dutch at home, first 35 minutes, um, was probably it was up there with one of the best phases
hmm,
in his 3 years. Um,
yeah,
Now
look,
what happened there was Koeman sussed it out, and he was more tactically inept
yeah,
to make the changes to nullify us, and that's what happened there.
yeah, like,
So I just thought, in terms of the a new manager, a new regime who comes in, I
hmm,
mean, the Paddy Power's favorite, so to speak. I mean, we have to remember the FEI are bankrupt.
yeah,
They're currently the government are currently stalling.
yeah.
The government are currently stalling money to them because of the memorandum of understanding that the FEI have to adhere to.
Yeah,
And
Big Johnny getting more money than he should have.
exactly.
A bigger
And
John.
which is absolutely crazy when you're trying to shrug off the Delaney era
Mm,
of the regime, the current regime. And there's
yeah,
elements of that where they are doing well, I believe. A couple of appointments like Mark Hannum, Will Clark, those type of appointments who
yeah,
are,
like,
or those type of appointments are positive,
mm,
to shrug off away from the previous regime,
right.
and it's just I don't know, like the Jonathan Hill development recently, it was just a big letdown. I was like, oh my God, I wanted to get
But,
behind this. And now this is just a whole big letdown. So, I mean, the point I'm getting to is that we've no money to pay
mm,
a household name, so to speak.
yeah,
Martin O'Neill, Roy Keane were funded by Dennis O'Brien. Trapattoni was funded by Dennis O'Brien. We can't do that anymore. It's reported that Stephen Kenny was on 500 grand, 600 grand a year.
right.
Who's going to accept that level of money? Now, I have seen in the press, a lot of Irish former internationals seem to be touting for Lee Carsley to take over. And they have said in dispatches that they think because he's on a rolling contract with the England under 21s that he would drop that and accept the 600k per year for an
Right.
international team. So yeah, we've a bankrupt association. Who's going to be the next manager to accept under 1 million a year? Like,
Gus Poyet.
are you saying that seriously or
Oh,
no? No, because it's funny because we've had lots of conversations about Manchester United in the
yeah.
last 18 months, and you weren't at all a fan of the Eric Ten Hag appointment, and you're still not, and you're probably at this stage probably a bit vindicated by it, or are you vindicated
Look,
by
look.
it?
I mean, as
Because
long as long as he's at the club, there's a chance for me to be wrong. You know what I mean?
of
And that's
course, yeah,
so like, and it's one of those things where I mean, like, the only way I'll be right is ultimately when he's gone, because you know. But like, I don't, like it's one of those things where I don't want to be right. I mean, I'd
Of
rather
course, because you're a
see,
Manchester United fan.
yeah, like I'd
Who
rather
did you
see him.
want? Who did you want instead of him at the time?
I just think Manchester United need to change their name to Atletico Madrid and get Diego Simeone on board. Basically,
And
um,
relocate to Madrid.
you know what I mean? Like,
I actually experienced
me,
Atletico Madrid versus Villarreal recently
you
live in the
did,
flesh,
you
and it was a
did, yeah.
brilliant experience.
I
3-1
don't
they
doubt
won.
it. But yeah, like I mean, I don't know. Look, the reality I think for Ireland is, as you said, like it's bankrupt. It's not exactly the most attractive job in football anyway. I just I'm not sure.
I think it
Um,
is an attractive job.
yeah, but I think that's just the fucking York Raw for Ireland stuff in general. Mero, do you know what I
But
mean? Like,
maybe no, but
great,
I think it's an
Chernobyl
attract.
could have happened in Wicklow, and you'd still be talking about people wanting to come to the Garden of Ireland. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like you sometimes have the green goggles on a little bit too much, man. The reality is we're 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 a less than mediocre football setup and a football nation,
I think
and
for an
while we
out of
have
work
passion,
manager, it's an attractive job.
well, I mean, is it like
I think
like
so.
I don't know, man. Realistically, you're talking like success is qualifying for a major tournament, and even with it being almost impossible to get knocked out of the qualifiers for the Euros these days, we still managed to fuck that. Like, uh, I,
Were we ever
I,
getting out of this group though?
I mean, we didn't. So
Yeah, but Greece are actually a better team than us.
yeah, but I mean,
Champions
is
League
that
players. We don't have any Champions League players like we used to.
no? And that's the point. Like, so who's going to want to
Yeah.
manage this crop of player? Like, I get like in one sense, I'm saying Ireland is better for the talent that Kenny has brought through, and I generally do believe that because but I still think we're 4 to 5 years away from seeing the true benefit. We probably are going to miss out on at least one more World Cup cycle. Um,
I think the
but
next manager's going to win the World Cup with us.
I think that's because you're fucking high as a grass balls, Graham.
I'm only messing. I'm
Um,
listening to Ross Samba too much. He'll often say, "We're going to beat Holland tonight 6-0. We're going to win the next 3 World Cups with the manager." And it's like, Ross, I don't need this right now. Thank you. Anyway, Dan, that was a good conversation. We didn't get anywhere. We don't
we
know who's
didn't.
going to take over. I don't have any specific um front runner. I don't know
No,
who I want to be the manager.
I don't
Um,
either. I don't either, to be honest with you. I do know a Manchester United Football Club. I'd either want Diego Simeone or Paulo Fonseca. They're the two that I'd want. One of those two.
that's who we wanted before Ten Hag got it.
Uh, I think I know Simeone realistically is never. He'll have to be taken out at Atletico in a fucking box. But
Yeah.
I I think Fonseca and what he's doing in France is fucking very interesting and very good.
How are you
Anyway,
feeling about the takeover at Manchester United?
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not like
You're not motivated by it at all.
it's a fucking saga, like, and it just encapsulates everything that is wrong with football and everything at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. Can we get Gattuso for the Ireland job? Is that can we? I just sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. I just want to hear that over and over again.
It's like a soap drama, a
Yeah,
serial drama.
indeed, indeed. I just yeah. Look, I don't know. The takeover at United is a load of shite. It's like it's not even a full on thing, is it? It's 25% or something. Like,
Yeah, it's a bit of a laughing stock,
it's
really.
a cop out, really, isn't it? I think,
Would you have wanted the state of Qatar to take over?
yeah, yeah, why not? I mean, everybody else is doing it. Like,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
do you know what I mean? Like, we had Kareem Zidane on the podcast a little while ago talking about the problems with,
Sports
brand
washing.
brand manipulation, sports washing, all those things, and questionable regimes and the ability of those regimes to use sport in a way that manipulates people into thinking that maybe that world ain't so bad, maybe they ain't bad people and all that kind of. But they're like, I mean, like you and I aren't going to change it. So me sitting here on my chair in Port saying, "Oh, the Qataris take over Manchester United. I'll what not go to Old Trafford again for 10 years. Sure, I haven't gone since Roy Keane was manager of Sunderland. So like, what fucking difference does it make to me? Like, you know what I mean?
You
In
just want
fact,
to be
actually,
happy sitting on your lovely sofa.
this is it. Actually, the God's honest truth, last time I was in Old Trafford was Roy Keane had just stepped down as the manager of Sunderland because I was going to United
Right.
Sunderland. So it was Ricky Sprague, was it, that took over him, I think?
Jeez, I haven't a clue.
Yeah, yeah, Jesus. So was that 2007, 2006 maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
That's how long it's been since I was in Old Trafford. And as
He
I've been,
retired. He retired in 2006, didn't he, or 2005?
oh geez, maybe it was 2008 then. Maybe I'm not. My memory isn't as good as I thought I was doing well pulling Ricky fucking Sprague out of nowhere there,
I,
you know what
yeah,
I mean? But
I can't even remember him.
yeah, I'm almost certain he took over from Keane at
Yeah, I'm
Sunderland.
not doubting you
Yeah, I could be
because
wrong.
I haven't a
I don't know.
clue.
Anyway, long and short of it is, I
Anyway,
believe Old Trafford is exactly as it was back then as well. And fuck all has been done to improve it. Yeah, the Qataris coming in might actually put a new roof on it, which would be a start. I don't fucking know.
yeah, because it's
Like,
leaking.
awful. Just the club is shambolic. It just root and branch changes are needed in there, from players to fucking to board members to everything else. So
Big time.
yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
we conducted earlier on a great interview with our next guest, who is an Irish actor, a playwright, writer, and he's a good guy. And he wrote and starred in a new show that premiered last Tuesday evening on TG Car, and it'll be on TG Car for the next 6 weeks. Northern Lights. We were delighted to be joined by Stephen Jones. Joining us now this week is the wonderful Irish writer, actor, playwright, singer, poet, and all round good guy, Stephen Jones. How are you?
Well, Graham, that was a lovely introduction. Never been called half of those things before, but I'm taking it.
But that's a jar, though.
Well, technically, I suppose it is true now, yeah, because yeah, I'll be doing a bit of singing and a bit of I've been incorporating a bit of singing and poetry into my next gig. So yeah, it's true.
just
What's
waiting
what's the story
for
with your next gig there on December 17th in the Civic?
That's right. Look at I love this. We're getting straight into a plug.
straight in, straight in.
My mate Baz is going to
Straight
be.
in, no kissing.
Well, what it is that I've been writing for the theatre for ages, and I'm sure we get talking about what I've written for the screen in a
Yeah,
bit. But I'm doing a show in the Civic where it's called The World as I Knew It. And the reason it's called that is because I went to Gothenburg in Sweden a few years ago, just on my own, on a random trip. It was sort of like one of my nerdy little hobbies is finding cheap flights. And I ended up getting like a €20 return flight to Gothenburg. So I went over and I got a Women's Champions League game in as well, just for the.
as you do.
But I went to their Museum of Modern Art, and there was a beautiful kind of stitched, I guess you'd call it, picture. I don't know how to describe it, and that was the name of it, The World as I Knew It. But it was like a guy with a backpack who was on like boards, like a stage, and then just looking out into this abyss. And I was in that real phase of my life. I just done the Camino with me backpack, and I'd spent years being a professional actor on the stage. And I just thought, oh my god, look at this, it's me. So I have this show. That's what it's called, and it's basically a collection of my non-theater writing. So it might be a little excerpt from a book I'm working on, some poems, some pieces that aren't quite poems, aren't quite short stories. They're just little pieces. Some travel diary stuff, which is kind of has a narrative side to it. And yeah, my oldest pal in the world, we grew up together in Glenview and Tala, Baz McCarthy. He was a very good singer and guitar player, genius guitar player. So I said, why not put some songs into it as well? It's a chance for us to kind of do something together. And yeah, thematically, they're all connected. It's all about the things that inspire me to write and my writing and other people's writing and songs that I listen to when I write. And hopefully, it's going to be a communal experience.
Deadly. That's class. You were complimenting me there of the intro, but I forgot to also say, fellow Shamrock Rovers fan. So I'll add that in now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pretty much lifelong, bar a couple of weeks. Because what happened was, I said,
For a couple of weeks.
yeah, because what happened was, I said this on another podcast recently, but I think it's it's always worth retelling some funny stuff. Like I'm the eldest of two kids, right? I have a younger brother, but my dad and my granddad and all my uncles are mad Manchester United fans, and they tried everything in their power to make me a Man United fan because I was soccer mad, right, football mad when I was a kid, and as I still am now. And but I just had this streak in me, which I still have to this day, where I just want to be a contrarian no matter what. And so I
Sound like
refused.
Danny.
Yeah, so I refused to be a United fan, and cut to a few years later, my dad had been going to Rovers most of his kind of life and took a break from it for a couple of years. And he was like, I need to get back into going to Rovers. So he started bringing us to Rovers. But to be a contrarian, I was like, no, I'm not following Rovers, even though I was going to the games. So I think Pats were the champions at the time. I was like to me, Dad, I'm a Pats fan. But of course, once I was actually at the matches, I was like, all right, Dad, just shut up. Don't tell anybody. I'm a Rovers fan. Doesn't mean we've won. It doesn't mean that I'm weak-willed. But I couldn't help myself, I was Rovers. So yeah. And yeah, in the last few years then I've been kind of back going to games regularly. There was a long time where I'd only be able to go to the odd match because most of the time I'd be on stage on a Friday night.
Yeah, yeah.
It was hard to get to the games. And I think with the League of Ireland, it is about being there, And I think when you're out of the loop and you're not quite there for a lot of the games, and you don't get to go on away trips, you sort of you don't feel part of it, So it's been nice the last few seasons to be able to kind of get to a lot of away games and most of the home games, unless I'm on holidays or something comes up. So
that sounds like Danny, doesn't it? Are you going to bring up your contrarian of how you found your League of Ireland team, Danny?
No, I was actually going to say that, like, your intro, Mero, was making Steve sound like a modern day Renaissance man, and then you brought in the Rovers, and I was like, well, he can't be a Renaissance man now. I mean, he's a Rovers fan.
Yeah, there's always a catch, Danny.
There's always a catch, isn't there? So, look, lads, enjoy your glory hunting. Us real fans in Bows will prop up the football. Don't worry, we'll find a way of making things real while you are off, doing what you do.
I was saying, I actually came up with a good gag about Bows today. I was thinking about all the different things that go on in the world, and how, like, no matter what, when there's rivalry or when there's rivalry involved, it doesn't matter. You'll always just toe the line of your own side or whatever it may be. So I was thinking to myself, if Bows do achieve their ultimate objective, world peace, I'll still call them every name under the sun. I'm glad you laughed in the right place, because the world peace bit is the gag. Yeah,
I mean, exactly. That's look, we're a tribe of people who care more than just about what happens on a patch of grass on a Friday night. That's where we are.
No, lads, you have to cling to something. That's what it is.
We do. When after the cup final, we're clinging to fucking whatever we can, to be honest with you. So, yeah.
You were at it, Danny?
I was at it. Yeah, I was.
What did you make of it?
We were shy. Like, no other way of putting it. They played shy. So
you're is that your first Bows match?
Second Bows match.
See, Jonesy, he only supports them to annoy me. He even got a jersey and all. He's full character. He used to call himself the Marty Jannetty of this podcast.
Yeah. Know what I mean? Listen,
I should have fucked you through a barbershop window.
What started as something just to annoy, and it was actually the people who listened to this podcast that suggested I support Bows, if you remember, because I was like, right, we talk about the League of Ireland so much, give me a fucking team. And if they had suggested Rovers, I would have went to Tala with you, and I would have become a part-time hooligan like the rest of you. But they didn't. They thankfully put me on a path to enlightenment, Graham. And now Thursday I'm reading Shakespeare, Friday I'm watching Bows. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's a privileged life I'm living here.
The two of you have something in common, actually. The two of you have your education in UCD.
Oh yeah.
Jonesy, you went and did English and history.
English and history degree, yeah, and I have a master's in creative writing. So it's a good job I'm a writer for a living, really, isn't it? Otherwise,
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it's one of them. After doing an arts degree, you really do need that master's, don't you? Like, do you know what I mean? To try and justify. Yeah.
Oh, it's true. Like, even the thing was, I always couldn't. The weird thing was, I wasn't one of those people. Look, no offense to anyone that was, who was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do, so I'll get an arts degree. I'll go to UCD and get an arts degree in English and history, and that means I could be a teacher, be a writer, be a journalist, be something in that realm. I kind of had a very clear,
very similar train of thought, man. Yeah.
So I enjoyed it, but that's how I got into drama and stuff.
Did you get into the drama at UCD?
Yeah, I'd been in a writing group in Tala Library as a teenager, and the guy who kind of ran it, he said, "Oh, you're going to UCD, join the drama society." And I said, "Well," he said, "Yeah, My daughter did that. She's a writer because you might write a play one day and they'd put it on. And so I did that, and then I kind of realized, look, I've been making joke videos and doing voices and impressions and all that, and yeah, just auditioned for a play. But like the people that were I spend a lot of time with in UCD and the Drama Society were kind of most of them are actors now, or like even the first play I ever did was 12 Angry Men. I don't know if you ever seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Henry Fonda, and in that there was like of the 12 lads, I think there's 6 or 7 who were like professional actors. Like who was in the play? Ronan Raftery, he was in Moon Boy and recently Obituary, and Killian Scott, who was Tommy in Love Hate, and 2 of the boys from Firearms and Hog, the comedy group. So there was loads of us, yeah, and then we just influenced each other. So a lot of my friends
Deadly.
in UCD were just kind of writing plays and doing plays and acting, and I was like, oh, people who were ahead of me and like a year or two ahead of me were like, some of them were going to drama school, and some were being like, we're going to be actors. I said, like for a living? They're like, yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't know that you could actually do that, you know. Um, so yeah,
That's amazing, isn't it?
yeah, there's so many people I could list off like that had come through it. And yeah, some went to London to acting school, and some didn't. I didn't. I went straight from college to do a film called Between the Canals, and then Between the
Oh yeah.
Canals,
Yeah, yeah.
me and Peter Coonan. He'd see what happened was I'd written a play, and Peter Coonan was the lead role in the play in UCD, and this fella came to see it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm doing this low budget movie," and then the film board gave it some money after we shot some scenes kind of for free, so that got 100 grand, and that ended up being Between the Canals. And then the people from Love Hate saw Between the Canals and went, look, it's a bit all over the shop, but we love the attitude, because Love Hate season 1 was getting a bit of stick for being a bit too pretty and a bit too middle class. And then you watch something like Between the Canals. Now it's a bit of a jumbled mess in ways, but 99% of the people in the film aren't actors. They're just people from in and around Sheriff Street. And all the locations were spot on. It just looked like proper, gritty Dublin.
Yeah.
And I kind of went
Was
from
that
there.
Mark O'Connor directed that?
Mark O'Connor directed it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We've talked to Mark a few times over the years.
yeah, I ended up in his first 3 movies, I think. I ended up, so I was a big part in Between the Canals, and then I had a kind of supporting role in King of the Travellers, and then I was had a small role in his film Stalker.
Stalker was brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean that was only made for about 15 grand, I think.
Yeah, and then I can't remember what was the other one that he did with John.
Cardboard Gangsters.
Cardboard Gangsters, yeah, that was one, wasn't it? That was
Stalker's the only one I haven't seen. It's mad, Jonesy, when we kind of came familiar with each other, and obviously I knew you were followed you before we probably met. Followed you through our mutual friend Steve Gunn. And it's mad because when you go back and look at your kind of CV of movies and TV shows and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, because like Love Hate, you're in Love Hate. I remember you in.
Is that coming back, lads?
Sorry?
Is that coming back?
Remember the Facebook page is going for years.
Fuck's sake.
No, but I remember you in a load of stuff like even remember the media ad you were in?
That's right, yeah. And do you know where
that was hilarious. Danny, you'll definitely remember the media ad where it was on the red carpet, and it was kind of like, oh, I'm an extra or something along those lines.
Yeah, because it was Meet Your Extras was the they were doing little bonuses for our customers, so that was the gag. And then yeah, I was an extra who thought he was great, who thought he was a big man. And but you know, we actually shot that in the Ukraine, in Kiev.
What?
Yeah, must have been some sort of tax break going on, because I remember getting the ad, and it was a big chunk of money at the time. And my agent was like, "Throw us over your passport there, will you?" I was like, "For what?" He goes, "Well, the ad's in Kiev." I was like, "What?" As in the Ukraine? He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Jesus.
So yeah, so that was I spent 5 or 6 days in the Ukraine.
That's mental, isn't it?
Most Ukrainian crew, bar the DOP. One of the actors was a British guy, and the girl was an Irish actress. And yeah, it was great. I had a great time. They were like, "You have a day off tomorrow, so we're going to take you on a pub crawl tonight, and you know, here's your personal assistant," and la 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 la. This is fucking brilliant. But Yeah, it's mad. I've done a few. I did an ad as well. You like this one? I did an ad for three, and it was like support works was the thing, and it was in the Euros in 2012, and it was like me, Shay Given, Stephen Ward, and Trapattoni, and
Oh, I
they're all
remember it.
encouraging me to ask a girl out on a date, in my office, and yeah, so the ads were mad because I have one of those faces. I'm like an everyman type of character, so
Yeah, yeah.
very good. I haven't done one in a good while, but I used to get a lot of ads and they were really good money. So like the thing about actors is you're never supposed to do an ad for if you do an ad for Meteor, you shouldn't really be doing one for three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They don't want you because you might be recognized from that. But I'm sort of one of those actors that doesn't get recognized a lot. So I ended up doing ads. I did ads for Meteor, Three, and Vodafone over the years,
Jesus.
No way.
as well as loads of other companies. But
The
yeah,
only,
so
the only thing I remember about Meteor lads were the call me messages. It feels like another lifetime ago that Meteor was a thing. Do you remember them fucking call me messages? That was a way of communicating. Nobody had credits.
Yeah,
You'd
yeah, yeah,
send
yeah.
two call me messages for yes, one for no, all this kind of, do you know what I
Or
mean?
an IOU or something like that as
Yeah,
well, wasn't it?
fucking hell.
Send me an IOU.
Jesus,
Um,
yeah. The old the that piece around kind of doing the adverts and all that, like so because like we've talked to other actors in this podcast and like it's one of those things where you're in it for the love, definitely, but like ultimately you got to put bread on the table. So was there ever a party that was kind of like, "Oh, fucking, people won't take me seriously. I'm doing these ads or whatever." Because I remember we thought, what was it, John? No, it wasn't John. I can't remember who we spoke to before about it. Who they're like,
Probably Steve, was it?
it might have been Steve, yeah, who said like, you know, there comes a point in time where you just have to put that kind of notion to one side and just be like, I still need to get fucking paid. Like,
yeah, like it depends on where people are at different stages. I mean,
mm,
for me now, if I was to do an ad, I haven't done one in quite a few years. If I was to do one, it would have to to be brutally honest, it would have to be a lot of money. It would have to be
yeah, yeah,
too ridiculous to say no to. And again, I won't go into figures now, but like one person's idea of what's a lot of money for an ad won't be my idea of or any actor's idea of what's
yeah.
a lot of. Um,
You probably won't be tempted with a week in Kiev either for an ad these days. Like, you know what I mean?
no, no, because I'm in a position at the moment, and who knows where I'll be next year, where I'm relatively comfortable financially, so I don't need to be doing something purely for money.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a funny story I have about an ad. Actually, I think it was probably the last big one I did. Now it was only for going to be on in America, so everyone in Ireland. It was a whiskey ad, which is always everyone always knows. There, the checkbook comes out, right? So everyone and their third cousin auditioned for this ad. And I say auditioned, I had to walk into a room and they went, "How are you, Stephen? Right, will you just pretend that you're hammering a barrel? You're a whiskey cooper, making a barrel." So I just went in, and I'm pretending to hammer a barrel, it's my finest work. They went, "Thanks very much." Everyone in Ireland, everyone in the UK. So the storyline of this ad was going to be five characters: a master cooper, a young apprentice, and then three just coopers. And I end up getting cast as one of the coopers. And it's purely on the way I looked, right? The
Deadly.
kind of an older lad, a bigger guy, and then me. And so the whole thing was went down to Cork to the distillery, and we were going to do it there for a few days. And there was this director, I think he was from Belgium or France or somewhere, and he kept cutting the three of us out of all the scenes. And we were all saying to each other, "Oh, we're going to be cut out of this now, right?" Now I'm talking about, let's just say it was a figure more than €39,000 that we were all getting, right? And and I don't know, 40 grand, lads. It was 40 grand from was on, right? And the whole thing was, if it didn't appear in the ad, you'd only get your little daily fee, which probably added up to about £1.5 grand or something, right?
Yeah.
So we're going, "Oh, this is a nightmare," right? So anyway, come the end of the week, we're saying to each other, the three of us, "I think we're in just enough to get away with it, grand." And one of the lads was moving his whole family the following week to Australia. So for him, it was like winning the lottery, right?
Jesus,
Before
yeah.
he left Ireland. So anyway, a few months go by, and a text message comes in, like a WhatsApp group or whatever that we'd made from Australia, right? "Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, boys. Just got the call there, not in the ad, so only getting me 1,500 or whatever, grand." So me and the other actor, he's actually in my show Northern Lights as well, Dom, I ring him. We have the same agent. So we're going, right, get on to the agent, see what the story is. So I ring my agent and he answers and he knows exactly what I'm going to be asking. And he goes, before you start, he said, here's the deal. You're in it. The both of you are in it. But when I say you're in it for 1 second, the first second of the ad, I mean 1 second. Once it goes 2 seconds, you're gone. You see the top of their head, the background. Now, they obviously want to use the shot, but they can easily edit it out because they've edited everything else out of the ad of views. So they're not going to pay 40 grand a piece. And I said, oh, well, look, fucking just get something, you know? And he was going, will you just take 30 each? You better sign it in blood right now. I signed it an hour ago. He said, you should be wearing a balaclava. But the thing about it was, when I actually assessed it, you think about it, whoever was in charge of hiring us three, their budget for the three actors was 120 grand. And the guy has his ad made and he spent 60. So he's getting a Christmas bonus, a big one. So that was a funny money story. But to go back to your original thing, no, it's you get to a certain point, money isn't the be all and end all. You just have to weigh it up. And then there's other actors who were in a position whereby they might have big overheads. Like, for example, I've no children, I've no mortgage, anything like that. So I'm like, I just have to take care of.
You've got myself. A bit more flexibility and freedom in terms of what you can do and what you can't, like what you take on. And
yeah, if I had a child or a couple of kids and I had a mortgage and I had, things that I had
you take everything you got.
Yeah.
Then might be a bit more less a kind of I want to do this kind of artsy art house avant-garde play. No, I'll go and do an ad and earn 20 times the money if I can. So all the people's circumstances, really.
You mentioned Northern Lights there. Chat to us about that.
Yeah, so it's a 6-part drama which started last week. Episode 2 aired this week.
And where does it air then for people who haven't?
Yeah. It's airing on TG4, but it is in English.
Yeah.
So the long story.
I love how you say that in all your Insta stories. It is in English.
No, because people have the notion of it. They don't realize that it does have an English language slot and it's shown a lot of HBO shows. But basically what happened was it had been a play that was on and done quite well. And then Irish company Deadpan, who've done a lot of big shows, like Can Cope, Won't Cope, and Nowhere Fast. They'd wanted to work with me as a writer for a while, and they really loved the play. And there was a couple of lads who were subsequently both left RTE. They were the head of drama and head of comedy, respectively. And they kind of met me with this company and said, look, we think we can develop this into a series. So I went away and thought about it and thought, how would I take this small play and make it into a series? But anyway, long story short, it ended up getting made. RTE ended up not involved in the final thing, but we had a lot of money from Screen Ireland. So it has to be shown on Irish TV because it's taxpayers' money, I guess. So TG Carter came in, and then Lionsgate from America are one of the producers on it as well. So hopefully it'll end up on a really good platform next year. But yeah, it's a 6-part drama about these two strangers who meet one night in town. My character sees this girl standing on Grattan Bridge from his apartment window, and it's lashing rain, and she's standing there for way too long than you normally would. And he goes down to check if she's okay. And long story short, she ends up coming back to his apartment, and they realize that she's there because her boyfriend had taken his own life from that spot months before, and my character had witnessed it happen. And then you get all these flashbacks to different moments in their life that have kind of brought them to where they're at in this moment, and they spend this weekend together, and little secrets and different things get revealed over the course of it. So it's about grief and overcoming grief and love and friendship and relationships and just being in Dublin in your 30s, and it's kind of hopeful and cathartic and in a very Irish way, funny while dealing with heavy stuff.
I've watched the first episode. I'm not going to binge it because the 3 episodes now are available on the TG Car Player if anyone wants to watch it. But I'm going to watch it weekly because I like that tradition sometimes of watching a series weekly. But I was lucky enough, you showed us the preview in July when we were in Iceland, and I remember being I remember being genuine because Danny will tell you I love Irish TV, Irish actors, and theater and stuff like that. And I remember being really excited just because of the production value. And even when I watched the first episode, like this might sound mad, but you know the scene on the bridge and the rain, I found that very therapeutic for some reason. I was just really enjoying the dialogue, the scene, um, and then the dialogue in the apartment, the flashbacks with Lloyd, your character's partner on the Camino, and it's so far like the first episode. I loved it, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, there's been really good feedback. I think, as I said, a lot of people have binged the first three episodes, and they're kind of regretting that now because they have to wait a couple of weeks when episode
See,
three.
that's why I didn't do it.
Yeah, when episode three airs next week, then 4, 5, and 6 will be available. But yeah, a lot of the response has been that people, excuse me, people really felt they were in that room with these two characters, and I think that was the key. Once people kind of get the first 10, 15 minutes and figure out who Lloyd and Anya are a little bit and get comfortable with them, then all of a sudden we open the story out and people start to really root for them, I think.
What was the process like of um you were saying when you met with the heads of the production companies where they thought they could, we can develop this theater show to for TV or whatever. Was that like was what because the theater show was what 2 hours, 2.5 hours long, and then you're
On a
developing
lead.
it down for 6 episodes long. So what was that process like?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to go. Even the theater show was only a one act show. It was like 75 minutes, maybe max.
Right.
Um, so I just thought about like what was the bigger world of these two characters, the characters that they mentioned in the play. So the play takes place over a weekend, but it's all set in this one room, in this one apartment. So what I did was I used that as a kind of the six scenes of the play almost are like the six episodes. That's what happens in the present day in each episode. And then I just go back, and the more I started to write, the more new things came about, and the more interesting things, and how can I get them out of the apartment? And what I decided was with the flashbacks. I think what a lot of people like about the flashbacks is that they're non-linear. So just like anything, we're talking now, something I might say could trigger a memory for Danny about something. And that's sort of what happens in the show. It's that they're kind of emotional flashbacks. So you're getting
Yeah.
pieces of the story that help you figure out why they're acting the way they're acting now. But it gives you a lot of room for surprises, and you think it's one thing and then it's something else. And so it was just a process of sitting down and spending a lot of time working out, what the backstory of these characters was, and kind of piecing it all together like a jigsaw puzzle, and then kind of pulling that apart and rearranging it in a way that was interesting because I wanted it to be there's an element of mystery to it, but it's not in a heavy plot who done it
No,
kind of way.
absolutely.
It's
No, I
just
was just gonna say that to you.
what do you guys, you know?
I was just gonna say that to you, like the flashback element of the show of the first episode. You're kind of going, you're kind of it's kind of mysterious, and you're kind of in your head as you're watching it. I can't wait to see. Like there was a scene. What's the girl on the bridge's name in the her character's name?
Anya.
Anya, sorry, yeah, Jesus. Anya, there's a flashback scene of Anya coming home from a night out. It's going back to her boyfriend's house, and they have a little bit of tiff because she's at their wake and the mother-in-law up. And I'm kind of watching it going, where's this going? And I couldn't wait to see where it was going. And then you kind of, without fucking revealing that, but at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, fuck, that's where it's
Yeah,
went.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
where it's going.
Yeah, and there's going to be loads more little moments like that, which it's one of those things I wanted to make sure that like when people go back and watch it, if they were to watch it all again, they'd see it in a very different way than when you're just watching it for the first time.
And are you proud of it?
Um, yeah, I'm hugely proud of it because it took a lot of work, and it's just like, you know, um, I've been a theater actor and then kind of what you'd call a character actor for so long. Like I'd go from like playing, drug dealers in Red Rock and Love Hate to Stevie Sparkles, the flamboyant wedding planner, and Damo and Ivor, and I'd do a day on something and a day here and a day there. And all of a sudden you get to write a show and get to be the lead actor. And the thing was, there were so many talented people working on it, and that you're kind of one fear you have is that it's going to be changed, and you'll have a show at the end of it that you won't even recognize. But thankfully, it's the show that I wanted to make, and it's even better because of the talents of like our DOP Maxime, who shot it and just makes it look amazing. Our directors, the actors. So yeah,
The
as I
fake
said,
rain.
fake rain, the rain machines on Capel Street and Grattan Bridge, yeah, incredible night filming that. And we got all the locations, like just small things, like I see, like obviously the listeners are only hearing the audio, but like I see a frame in the background there in your house, Merrill, with
Yeah.
the mazes and the demos. Love yourself today. Like we've Mazer doing the artwork for the credits. We've Hosier singing the song at the start. We have Grattan Bridge, because this was the origin story. This goes back 12 years. I moved out of home for the first time when I was 26 to Ormond Quay, and I saw a person jump into the Liffey from Grattan Bridge, which was very strange because I never associated the Liffey as a spot where people would do that. But um, and I had this kind of image of these two people there chatting, and who were they, for years in my mind. So we ended up getting an
Fucking
apartment
hell.
on the same quay. A couple of doors down from where I lived is where we shot Lloyd's apartment. We built an apartment in there above a tattoo parlor. So when you in the episode, it's a subconscious thing, but when you're watching episode one or any of the episodes in Lloyd's apartment, you're watching buses go by. You can see the bridge, you can see the river. It's a character in the story in those scenes. Um, yeah, so we just all these little things that were really complicated for locations because of where it was shot, they managed to pull off, and all these little details add up to build it. So as I said to somebody, if the only people that liked it were me and my mom and dad, it'd be fine because I'm happy with it.
And you'll always
Brilliant,
have it,
man.
like, and I mean, it is. I would urge anyone to watch it, not being biased or whatever, but in terms of Irish film, Irish TV, and stuff, it's production wise. I don't think you're going to get better. It's funny there you mentioned about prior to this, you've been a character actor, and I said to you before, even with when you played Bobby in Dublin Old School, and
Oh
I
yeah,
remember what I loved Dublin Old School, the theatre show, and I remember having two kind of feelings of when it was brought to the big screen. I was thinking, how the fuck are they going to do this? Like, two-man show developed into a movie. And whilst I did enjoy it, but I remember there's scenes with yourself in it where you want more of Bobby. You want more of Bobby and the friends. You want to see where their lives are, or you just, do you know the way like that. My mind does wander sometimes on shows where the supporting crew I find sometimes really interesting and wanting to know more about them. I was watching Flora and Son, which I found very, very
Brilliant.
good.
Yeah,
I
really
watched
enjoyed
it
that.
on Sunday, and you popped up as the therapist. Now you told me you were going to be the therapist, but again, I wanted to know more about the therapist. I wanted to know more about the therapist's the young lads. There was
yeah,
um Max, isn't it Max? Florence
yeah.
the son was Max, wasn't it? I wanted to know more. Well, Max we knew about, but the other convicts, so to speak, are the kids in locked up. I wanted to know more about them. Like, can we get can we do that? Can we get more about Bobby? Can we get more about the therapist? Do we have spin-offs? Do you want to write some spin-offs there?
Yeah, it's always a thing. It's such a delicate balance with supporting roles, because what happens is you want to make them interesting, but then again, you you're trying to keep your audience focused on your lead characters.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and Dublin Old School, I think, was a little bit trickier in terms of adaptation than my one for a couple of reasons. One, I have 6 hours of TV; they only have an hour and a half really of film, and my dialogue in the play was very naturalistic anyway, and could nearly be directly translated into screen if you wanted, pared down a little bit. Whereas Emmett's is heightened and very theatrical, and sort of some of that material, it's just for the theatre. That's just its medium, and it's hard to
Yeah.
get
Well, the
it.
poetry slam
I
element
remember,
of it as well.
I remember we filmed the scene, me and Emmett walking up Francis Street, being followed by a load of kids, and we were sort of rapping it, and it was very surreal and you're not realistic. But in the way that the film was put together, it just didn't fit, and that's just sometimes that happens. So some of those elements that were really enjoyable in the play were maybe lost a little bit. And yeah, like that, the supporting characters. There's some really good actors in there, and yeah, you want to know more, but they've only so much time, and it's like, what's the story you're trying to tell? So it's weird. Like even with the therapist and Flora and son, we had a great afternoon filming that, and it was a bigger scene, but of course, sometimes they get into an edit room and they go, look, can this
Yeah,
really can we really afford 7 minutes here when it can be 1 minute or whatever it might be? So they make those hard decisions, and sometimes there's really good stuff on the cutting room floor. It just doesn't fit, or sometimes that happens in the editing process. Sometimes that happens in the scripting. I had I'd have really funny and great scenes that I thought were great, but really funny stuff in some of the scripts, and the editor or the script consultant would just be like, it's really funny, but I mean, it doesn't serve the story. It's not moving us forward. It's just being funny for the sake of it. And you've got other gags that are moving the story forward. So it's just a very delicate balance. And yeah, it's one of those
that
things.
it's that age old question. Will it make the boat go faster? I think is the analogy that people use for it. But
Like if you're
yeah,
not, you have to, even though you can have nice moments of just character revelation. It's like, yeah, is it telling us something about the character and is it moving the story forward?
yeah,
And yeah, you can. I'm not one of these people like if you watch my show, it's not plot, 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 plot. There are times where you're just sitting with the characters and being, but it's also kind of built in a way where it's revealing loads without you even realizing it. You're taking it
mm.
in who people are. There's looks, there's certain things, and are they always telling the truth? Are they not? So there's different things like that. So and sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong. I mean, I
But
personally would have liked much more of Bobby and much more of the therapist. But
that's certainly Bobby and the therapist as well. Like, it doesn't surprise me to say that you probably shot 7-8 minutes worth of a scene there, and the majority of it was cut because it kind of that scene kind of did kind of abruptly end. Even your character in Kane, like it was a really good character, and was it maybe 2 or 3 episodes?
I think it was just two. A funny story about that. Well, I think it's funny. So I had a main brothers or whatever, right? And they went, "Oh, look, you didn't get the part, but we're going for a very different look." They were all kind of, I mean, if people probably don't know what I look like, but I'm sort of traditional Irish pudding head, fair, blonde going on ginger. They went for like handsome, dark haired, tall lads. You know what I mean? And with sallow skin, and but I knew the casting team and I knew the director. He'd been one of my kind of main directors on Red Rock, where I kind of had a leading role for a while. So he was like, "Oh, I'd really love to have you in it. There's a couple of days this part. It's not massive, but you have a couple of scenes with Claire Dunn, who was the lead female in it." And I always think you look at something and you say to yourself, "All right, look, at least there's a couple of good scenes with a lead actor of the show, so you can bounce off them, and they could be good scenes." And so my character was called Noli, and he was sorting them out with dodgy cars. So the couple of scenes
Mm.
with her, and the whole thing is my character early on, like episode 2 or 3, is found dead. He's been shot, and this is a catalyst for other stuff going wrong for the crime family. But I remember someone had tweeted after the show, sad to see that Noli got clipped. Interesting character, could have gone somewhere. And I thought to myself, well, like, small part, but you make an impact. That's great. And
Yeah.
like, next of all, I look back and there was a reply to that going, just watch the episode. Who the fuck was Noli? So, yeah. So, which I thought was hilarious.
Love it.
Yeah, like all you can do is, if you're an actor and you're coming in, sometimes it's harder to do in some ways now. Sometimes it's harder to come in for a day or two and do a couple of scenes in something than it is to be the lead actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like should be totally wrong. And in many ways, it's not. In many ways, it's much easier. But you're coming in, the crew don't know you. They just want to be getting onto their time. You don't have loads of time to get it right. All you're there is to kind of just stay out of people's way, know your shit, get the scene done and get out of there. So you're helping them not get caught behind because film sets and TV sets, everything's running on time and everything goes late, and you just want to get in and get out and know your stuff and go. Like I did a day on a film there last week with a couple of like pretty much A-listers are in this, and it's just really the two of them for most of the movie, mostly set in a car, and then at the end there's a couple of detectives or whatever. And the same thing, you're just like, you almost felt the pressure of do not fucking hang around here and mess this day up for these
Yeah.
fucking movie stars. So
The rest of that.
but I enjoy it. Yeah, you go in and you kind of you go in and you do your bit and you hope that it's
But it's
realistic.
I think as well though, like it's I think it's testament that of you're so good at your craft. I mean, I went to see your one man show, David Bowie, and you played multiple characters. You played scenes. You're on your own. You're playing multiple characters, and you're setting the scene in a studio. I'm in the studio with you with those four physical people, but you're actually only doing it yourself. You're in the pub. You're in the like. I was in that pub at the talent contest at that one man show for David Bowie, and I was that way. I was get like, yeah, you're a brilliant actor. So that's all I wanted to say. I think that was
Well,
the,
that's
the
all
whole
cool.
point of me saying about you know you were supporting role, and you wanted to see more. I think it's testament to how good you are at your craft.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, and the theater thing, it's with that. I mean, like good writing helps, and that was a really well written piece by Eugene O'Brien. And yeah, it's just I've done theater for now over half my life, and pretty regular as well. Like that show actually, that was the longest gap I'd had since I became an actor at 18 of not doing a show, had been 2 years. But pre-COVID, the longest I hadn't been on a stage doing some sort of show was like 2 months in like
Wow,
years or something. So, yeah, I always say to people, like, I'm quite a confident and personable, and I like people. I'm quite a social person in my normal life. Like I'm not shy or anything. I'd be quite extrovert, but like my safe place is on stage in front of a live audience. Like that,
really?
it's different. It's different level of comfort. It's different level of I'm in a safe bubble where nothing can get to me.
Mm.
Whereas some people, like my partner, she's a dentist, and the idea of her having to fucking speak to anyone in public or get in front of a crowd or something would be a nightmare. She knows I'm doing a one man show. She's seen the show before, and she'd come to it, and in the back of her head, she'd be going, "He's not going to drag me up on stage, is he?" You know, level of irrational fear. Whereas for me, it's like, oh, once I'm in front of an audience, once I'm performing, I'm safe. This is great. I'm in control.
And
So,
you know that one
uh,
man show with the sorry, what was the David Bowie show called again?
I was called Falling to Earth.
Fallen's Weird. One man show about David Bowie's visit to Ireland, um, and in an intimate setting in the Civic Theatre. It's so intimate. Is nobody going to from the crowd going to put you off?
No, because we even had a guy, and who there was a woman who fainted one night. There was a guy who had a coughing fit, and then he wanted to come back in, and it was right before a big moment. I said, "Oh, come on in," because my character had license because he was talking to the audience, sort of every now and again.
Mm.
He'd break the fourth wall, so I was able to be like, "Oh, come on in, come on in, come back." So, yeah, no, there's not a whole lot that can happen. Like, there's random things can happen. I mean, we've had uh over the years, God, guide dogs barking at certain things, and you
Well,
just it's live theater. It's kind of the brilliance of it. Um, we had a woman, I had a projectile vomit in a show in Bewley's Cafe Theatre. I was doing a two-hander that I'd written as well called From Eden, and a
oh
very,
yes,
very delicate, sensitive, and kind of beautiful little show. And it was about 10 minutes from the end, and we just heard noises, and then all of a sudden, our kind of tech guy had to come up and say, "Sorry, can we gonna have to stop the show? Lights up." So we left the stage, and a few minutes later, we were told we could come back on, and we started where we left off. And then all of a sudden, a woman in the audience interrupted us. Sorry. Look, it was very noisy for the previous 5 minutes. Can you go back a bit further? And we
what did
did.
you do
And
there?
And we just went back and said, yeah, no problem. And we just went back and started it like another. I went, we go from this, yeah, and we just did it. And bizarrely, it was one of the biggest receptions that we got at the end of that play because that actually this speaks to my point what you were saying about imagining everything. That's the beauty of trusting the process in the theater when you're an actor. Is that I know that the audience are doing so much of the work. I can sort of tell an audience member anything and I'll go with it, and I can stop and be Stephen for a second if I need to, and then once I start up again, your imagination, your suspension of disbelief just kicks in. It was like uh, in a show before. I had a show that I'd written. This is actually the one I was mentioning earlier with Peter Coonan that got us that part in the film, and it was about adults playing kids. We were all playing 12-year-olds in a housing estate, and people bought that straight away. And the other thing they bought, which was never questioned, was that we had a ladder that was painted brown and green. And that was the tree that this character Leper was always in. Leper, you're always in that leading tree. No one ever once said the ladder in the audience or anything, or anyone that wrote about it. No one ever said ladder. They just said tree because on the stage, if I tell you it's a tree, it's a tree, and
Yeah.
so there's a beautiful power. That's why I love theater because it's that immediacy of connection and there's that imagination. Like Mero saw me in a show where it was me on my own in a black box with a very little set, a couple of boxes, and there was a whole world of this lonely guy in Offaly who got to meet his hero and kind of fucked it all up. Um, and yeah, I'm working hard and there's skill, and we the director and me work on it, and you need good writing. But at the same time, the audience is part of that. They're doing a lot of the work. It's like when you
Yeah,
watch a difficult movie or you read a really good novel, like you're rewarded for your work. What's beautiful about the theater is you go and you watch, and if you pay enough attention, you see everything. It's great.
do
It's
you?
like the scene in the David Bowie thing where you're waking up in the bed after a few pints,
Yeah,
and I have the image of when I used to say I don't drink that much anymore, but say on a Sunday morning or hungover, I had the image of my room in bits, waking up and you were literally just lying on a shelf like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I had the pillows in my head, I had the duvet, I had the shoes on the ground, the jacket, you know, just
So it's
mental. It was brilliant.
very with small images, but like that's the beauty of the craft. It's like it's how I move, it's how I sound, it's what I do to block the sunlight that's not coming through the window, but that
Yeah,
I'm showing you is. And once I show you that image, then you're seeing the other five images that I'm not showing you.
yeah.
I mean, if I show you one thing that's familiar, your brain goes like, here's the other things. It's like I did a short movie, tiny little part. I was really helping a housemate out, but there was a really interesting premise in it. It was called "I Can't See You Anymore," and it was about a guy who was having an affair with this kind of bombshell, a kind of thing. And he says, "Look, I can't see it anymore. I have to end it. I'm not leaving my wife. This is over." And she was kind of like a femme fatale, so she loses the head and she picks him up on a rainy night in the car under the premise of, "I just want to see you one more time." But the whole thing is that she's going at 90 miles an hour and drives the car off a fucking cliff. So she dies and he ends up in hospital. But the whole thing is that he has this condition, which apparently really exists, where he's blind, but he doesn't know he's blind. And so he's seeing everything. And the doctor is going to him, "No, you're only seeing your wife because of what she looks like." And he's like, "Describe me." And he describes the doctor, and the camera pans around. It's a totally different looking guy. He's just pieced together this hospital room and this doctor based on images he has
Well,
from movies, different things. And like he's like, "Look, in 2 or 3 days, your brain will tell your eyes that you're actually blind," or whatever it was. And I just thought that was interesting. But
yeah,
that's how I feel about audiences in the theater when with minimalist kind of sets and shows. It's like you're seeing all these things that aren't there just because I've given you a little nudge towards them.
mm,
Uh, That's why I love the theater. It's just even I'm an actor, I know how it all works, and yet I can still like fool this wrong word, but I can still fall for the magic. I can still go to a cinema and be in tears at the end of a movie, even though I know how the actors have done it and how the writer has done it. It's the
exactly.
part. It's like a kid. It's like being at a magician show. you're in on the manipulation. You want to be fooled.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great way of putting it because in fairness, it is one of those things. Like we all know it's, you know, 70 minutes, 90 minutes of make believe, but we're there to go along on the journey. We're there because we want to be part of that make believe, you know?
It's also real as well. It's a weird thing. I always say, like, this is for an audience and an actor. And I'm talking mostly about stage, I guess, because you're getting that reaction. So multiple things are happening in my brain when I'm performing a show.
Hmm.
On one hand, I'm in total control of like technique and timing and rhythm, where the audience are laughing and when I need to pick up the pace and change my vocal range and all these different things. And on the other hand, I'm physically really living whatever's happening. Because
Okay.
otherwise you couldn't cry and you couldn't, like I had in that play that Graham saw, there was a lot of emotional kind of moments about his dad and just his life and regret and who was he and and heartache and just loneliness. So I'm living that the same every night, but I'm also actually sort of living it to
Yeah.
the point where I only found out a few years ago. I remember I did a play which had done really well. Been in the Abbey and then went to Edinburgh and won an award and went to London. And it was about this parent teacher meeting that goes wrong. And I played this kind of working class guy and his marriage was ending. But I also played his 9-year-old son at the same time in the same play. Uh, and the guy was just really angry. And people remember for being a powerful play, but they also remember for being really funny. But the thing about it was, every time I did that play, like people close to me would say, you get really, you're not yourself when you do that play. It really, really, really affected me. And I didn't even realize it. And
Hmm.
it was only after talking to the therapist then afterwards, they were like, people in your job, like you're taking on that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And like the better you get at your job, the more you're internalizing all these things. So anger that I would have in a show or emotion or grief or something, I might not have experienced that exact thing that I'm portraying, but the feeling of it is real and trying to summon those feelings are real. Or it might be like I might be, let's say, mourning the loss of a parent in a show, but I could be getting to that place emotionally, thinking of a relationship that's ended or some other trauma with my parents or something. And so you're physically actually going through it.
Yeah.
So it
yeah, yeah,
actually is it's something that you have to be aware of in my job that, you know, uh, these things are emotionally taxing as well as physical. It's not just
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it's getting up on a stage and you're doing a bit and you leave it behind and you go home and it doesn't affect you at all. And then you get certain parts that are like, oh Jesus, like, why am I depressed for 2 weeks after and I don't suffer from that? Why am I anxious or down or tetchy or angry for a couple of weeks doing that show or after the show? It's because my body is going through something, and it's a very
It's
interesting thing.
it is. It's fascinating because I mean, like, and I'm sure we've all done it. That thing where you like, something as innocent as like, in a relationship or something like that, where you're half pretending to be mad over something, but it suddenly escalates into then you actually are mad and you don't know what you are. It's just because you've been doing that thing. You're like, no, 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 fuck off. And then suddenly it snowballs into something a little bit more. It's kind of similar to that, but obviously just on the acting stage. But it's fascinating as you're saying that because it kind of, in a clunky segue, it kind of makes my brain jump towards people who do like the method acting and stuff like that, where they're living it 24/7 in the process. And I'm always kind of fascinated by those guys. And I know probably the most famous one, Daniel Day Lewis. But like, have you ever worked with anybody who's that way, or they do method or anything like that? And like, what's your thoughts on that sort of process?
No, I've never worked with anybody really, I don't think, who would be like that. Um, my thoughts on it are sort of whatever works for the person. There might be
Mm.
certain roles I do where I wouldn't say it'd be method acting, but I'd certainly be uh, leaning more on that side than I would on a different part. It's role to role for me. There's certain
Right.
parts you walk in and you throw the costume on and you do the voice and that's it. And then there's other things that might be maybe if it's something that's not quite you, if it's a million miles from you, you want to do something, and they can be small things like in the play that Mero saw is playing a guy who's from Tullamore.
Mm.
I would have went down there a couple of times and kind
Yeah.
of sat in. I don't drink, so but I would have sat in pubs and I would have had me lunch and I would have interacted with locals and I would have got chatting to them and I would have taped a few people talking just so I could get the accent a little
Jesus,
bit
it's an
better than
awful
what
accent. Jesus, it's an awful accent.
yeah. So that just that type of thing, or I might wear a certain jacket that I would never wear in my life, but that would be a good costume jacket. I might wear that for a week before the show to see how it feels. Do you know, like I think Daniel Day Lewis, that one is quite kind of legendary, but I think he's so that sort of seems to fit his personality. Whenever
Mm.
the little bits you see him do interviews, he's so mild mannered and kind of mildly eccentric and a bit aloof and in his own. So for him, I imagine that he is. I like there's just being talented and then there's genius.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that exactly.
Really playing, like I mean, not everybody can just go. Oh well, I'll live as Daniel Plainview for 3 months and I'll produce that performance. Like it's just not going to happen. Like it's a once in a lifetime type of thing.
Yeah, and there's probably a certain amount of people who'll get away with making people call him Mr. President, Jordan Nelson of Lincoln. Like I just love those kind of stories as well, where he just wouldn't respond to people, unless they were addressed him in character and stuff. But it's
It's like
fascinating.
like,
But
the people who will get away, the people not get away with it, but the people who will do it. He probably didn't like talking about it too much. Like
mm,
there's people who do it because it's kind of they think it's fashionable or something. It's like I don't know. There's certain things. It either works for some people or it doesn't. I wouldn't be
yeah,
like because I don't naturally do it. I'm not going to do it because oh, I heard De Niro and
yeah,
Daniel
yeah,
Lewis do it. It's like something that will naturally happen for certain roles. And there's lots of people who think it's what's the famous thing, of course, is just try acting.
yeah.
Um,
I think there's a lot more to like that's because I'm fascinated with some of the stuff you're saying there because it's like stripping it down to its most kind of ignorant level almost feels as though it's just kind of like you're just learning lines and repeating them when you're on stage kind of thing. But there, what you were talking about, like the preparation, even as something as like going down to Tullamore for a couple of days, like recording those conversations so you get the nuance of the accent, you know what I mean? Like little things like that. It's a lot more
Brilliant.
than just being able to recite fucking lines like you did in your Leaving Cert for Shakespeare plays, you know what I mean?
well, there's a lot of little things to it, and every little does help. Again, it depends on what you're doing, and a lot of the things go in subconsciously. Like, I know what an Irish rural town looks like. I've toured through them all, but I never spent time in that town.
Yeah.
So I went to the bars that the character Scott would have went into. And so, as Mero said there, when he's watching it and he's imagining this pub, well, I'm walking in and I know that exact pub that I'm in. Now, whether that actually helps my performance or not, I don't know. But if it makes me believe that it
Yeah.
does,
Absolutely.
it will. So yeah, like there's loads of little extra interesting things like that. I mean, one thing I find interesting about actors is that like uh, a lot of them are drawing on past stuff. It was like that show Inside the Actors Studio. Like a lot of the
Yeah.
top actors, a lot of them are from kind of divorced homes, broken homes, or single parents and stuff
Well,
like that. Um, I was nearly in that position, but my dad, you won't mind me talking about this because he talked about himself. My dad is an alcoholic who hasn't drank in 26 or 27 years, and then went back to college and became a therapist and really helped a lot of people with those similar issues. You
amazing.
know, but I would know, even though I have my dad's one of my best friends, and I get on great with him, and him and my mum are still together. Even in the show, Mero saw that father and son relationship. Even though me and my dad's relationship is different and was different, he stopped drinking when I was 12. I'm drawing on that
Yeah.
as this
As a
30, 30 odd
12-year-old,
year old man. You know what I mean? So you're going through that because in that show, even though he's a man and he's talking to his dad who has a drinking problem and they don't get on, in those scenes, he's 30 odd, my character, but he's really a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
You know?
fascinating.
Yeah. The
Yeah, so
psychology to it is, yeah.
the psychology to it and what you've just we've taken far too much of your time now, but I've just felt that the conversation was so fascinating and enlightening, and
Yeah. Well,
it
here's the
was
thing,
great.
because we mentioned it before. Like you mentioned, like the Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Yeah. So that's actually deep, deep, deep down probably the reason why I am an actor. I lived in my imagination with my little
Love
wrestling
it.
figure, doing voices and doing like storylines when I was a little kid. And do you remember the wrestling documentary? Which, if any of you people didn't like pro wrestling when they were younger or whatever,
Wrestling with
remember
Shadows.
Beyond?
Oh,
Beyond the
Beyond the
Mat.
Wrestling.
Mat.
Well, there was a thing in Beyond the Mat that I'll never forget. And I went, that's what it is. It was when Jake the Snake was talking, and he was talking about the psychology of performance. And he was going, every single thing I do counts. He goes, the
Yeah.
way I walk out, the way I look at people, the way I use my hands, the way I use my hair, how I get into the ring, how I get out of the ring. That's what I have in my mind as a theatre actor.
Wow.
How do I open the door when I come in? How do I leave? How do I take my jacket off? How do I look at people? How do I pause? How do I laugh? How do I walk? How do I tie my shoelaces? Every single thing is giving the audience information about a real person in front of them. That's not me.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
You know what I mean?
And like
Pro
professional
wrestling.
wrestling is theater, like.
Yeah, it's theater. Of course, it's theater. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
theater. It's soap opera for adults and, well, no, kids, I guess, as well. But I mean, I remember I was obviously the Attitude Era, and that's what
Yeah.
it was. It's just a show. It's just theater. It's just,
That's
it's just
so.
drama. It's like it's the same thing. When I get on that stage, I'm an actor. You can read a program note about me. That's what people never understood about pro wrestling, isn't it? That's always the thing. But it's fake, and you're going, no, you're watching theater,
Yeah.
and we'll still be in shock when Brock Lesnar beats the Undertaker. What? You know, we'll
It is.
still go. I remember that being like, this is this is like watching a Eugene O'Neill play. This is like watching, this is like watching the Greeks. Do you know what I mean? Uh,
But
yeah,
there was a storyline last year with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, and there was like actors critiques and stuff like that from America suggesting it should have been nominated for an Emmy. There was like the whole the whole ending of that kind of storyline was in front of 80,000 people or something like that.
right.
And it climaxed at this, and the crowd reaction from the finale, so to speak, of the heel, the bad guy turning into a good guy, having spent 5 to 6 months, being embroiled in a theater, and very funny, breaking character. And then when this culminated in the bad guy turning good, fucking sensational. I don't know where you're going to get a live reaction such as Sami Zayn hitting Roman Reigns with a steel chair in his back.
Yeah, and it's the oldest thing, the double cross. They've been doing it forever, but it's that thing. It's like, you watch how many cop shows or thrillers or anything you
Yeah.
watch, you've seen, like, there's nothing that new, and you still go, oh, like, and that's the thing. The reaction, even with Northern Lights, give another little plug here. Even with that, you people going, oh, at the
Yeah.
end of an episode, when it's not, it's shocking, but it's not. It's because you're invested in the story so much that any little deviation, any little thing that throws it away from, the good path, you just go, oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I
That's why you keep
reacted
going.
to the end of episode 1 of Northern Lights. I was like, and then at that moment of time, I did want to binge it. I did want to go straight to episode 2. I had patience though, but I felt like that with season 2 of Kin. I thought was absolutely amazing.
I
And
still,
after what's that?
even though I was in the early part, I still have to watch it, and people are like, "That's just because they killed you," and I was like, "Yeah, but sure." No, I still have to watch it. I'm actually terrible for, even though I'm an actor and writer, I'm late to a lot of shows because I do be working on my own stuff, and
Yeah,
I do I read a lot of novels as opposed to watching TV.
right.
Uh, it's weird. And then when I do watch TV the last couple of years, especially, yeah, watch TV, I'm I'm watching it with a kind of script writer's head on as well. So there's times where if I'm working on something like I am now, I can't be watching. I have to be when I'm
Yeah.
totally not
Focus.
doing that, and then I can get into it again. So
With
yeah,
every
there's a
episode
lot.
of the season 2 of Kin, you're kind of going, it's so builds up tense and tense and tense. Anyway, we're gonna leave it there. Northern Lights, TG Car every Tuesday for the next 6 weeks at 10:30, or from next Tuesday. You can catch all the episodes on the TG Car player. What's next? I read that you're developing season 2.
Yeah, it's in development. That's what I'm working on at the moment. Like anything, it's a process. So there's no guarantees until you're actually there on set filming it. But yeah, I've written the treatment, which is the outline of the story, and that's been approved. And I wrote the first episode, and that went through its little draft, and that was approved. So sort of towards the end of episode 2 now. So there'll be another 6. The storyline is all planned out. So it's just a case of writing it now, and then the usual stuff, funding and blah blah blah. But the response has been really good. And it's important that we kind of get Irish people on it, because next year it'll be out on Germany's big channel, and it'll be out in Belgium and Australia and the UK and America. So
Amazing.
yeah, hopefully it goes ahead. But yeah, it's nice to have people watch it. And that's the other thing. It's like, if we're being honest, like TG Carr doesn't have as many viewers as RTE would have. So that's why, it was important for me to kind of stress anytime I'm doing it. Look, it's in English, and it's there. The player is there. It's easy to use. Get on it. So yeah, hopefully it's just the start of this show, because it's got there's life there. I really, even though I'm in the fucking thing,
Even
I
though you
wrote
wrote
it.
it.
Yeah, I just think that there's an appetite for those stories. I mean, like the likes of Kane and Love Hate and all that were great, and their crime stories about gangs. Whereas this is, even though I loved that and I was in them, it's like this is about people who it could be you. Do you know what I mean? It's just regular people with jobs and lives, and it's about how mad stuff happens to actually all of us if we were to really go. I mean, you've asked me what's next as well. I have an idea for something I'm going to do next year. I don't know whether it's a podcast series or it's a documentary or what, but next year is my 20-year school reunion. And so I've gone on to a few people from my school and just been like, I'd love to do a little show or something artistic around a reunion. Like, who were we 20 years ago? Who are we now? What's happened? And I actually look at the list of people and their stories. And I mean, every single thing that you could think of for a human drama has happened to my school year.
Wow.
Marriages, kids, divorces, death, immigration, whatever it is, interesting stories, mad stuff happening, affairs, a pro wrestler, an actor, people, other mad jobs. Yeah, like just loads of little things, like a real microcosm of Irish society in the last 20 years. So yeah, that's what I'm interested in. That's what I'll
You're
be sort
always
of
thinking.
always, yeah, always thinking. And then I've got that show on the Civic on Sunday, December 17th, which I think will be a really kind of cool little pre-Christmas night with a few songs and stories, everything from, kind of old Dubliners ballads to everything from that to Alice in Chains and Damo Dempsey and
Yeah,
then stories and poems and mad stuff. So if anyone's interested, they should pop along to that.
deadly.
Brilliant.
Well,
Brilliant.
I'll be seeing you next season, home and away, and hopefully we can get a good stint in Europe again.
Yeah.
But Jonesy, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. And I'm delighted with the success of Northern Lights, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. And thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure, boys. Pleasure. And
Thank you.
sorry for waffling on for so long, but look, that's what happens when you invite an actor on. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. No, it was a fascinating and detailed chat, man. I loved it. And yeah, as Mero said, all the best with what comes next, and looking forward to getting stuck into Northern Lights now.
Lovely. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it.
Big thank you to Jonesy there. Great chat. Fascinating.
Love
Fascinating.
it. I really enjoyed it. And wanted to keep him for we told him 35, 40 minutes, but
Mm.
the conversation was just so fascinating and I really enjoyed it. So big thanks to Jonesy there, and everyone get watching Northern Lights. First episode was really good. I'm off now to get a sandwich and watch the second episode. And Dan, I think you are actually going to like it.
I've no doubt that I will, and I'm looking forward. I am going to wait until all 6 episodes are available, and I'll
Yeah,
binge
because
it.
that's what you do.
That's what I do. And for anyone there who has sat through that hour interview and they're still scratching their head and saying, was it Ricky Sprague that took over from Roy Keane? It was indeed Ricky Sprague that took over from Roy Keane as caretaker manager following Roy Keane's departure from Sunderland on 4th December 2008.
Deadly. I loved in the interview as well how we brought up wrestling and
Yeah, same, man.
how the
Same.
drama of it. And another storyline that I loved that just popped into my head as we're talking and we're doing the outro to this episode 301 of What Story Podcast. Do you remember the drama of Mark Henry retiring in his salmon shirt, his salmon blazer?
One of the fucking best.
And then he just turned baddie against John Cena. That was absolutely hilarious.
Absolutely amazing.
And the reaction, like we were saying, it's live theater. And when you get a big reaction like that, you know it works. But that was a great interview. Really enjoyed it.
It was. And you've just that Mark Henry piece. I'm going to watch that now again this evening.
It's what I do.
That was Mark Henry had some great run. Remember the Hall of Pain, wasn't it?
Yeah, Hall of Pain. Do you remember his entrance music? And the lad sang it live on SmackDown one night.
No.
Somebody gonna get your ass.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody gonna get you. Break it up, break it down, break it up, break it down. It's what I do.
That's me now going on to Spotify to listen to the WWF soundtrack.
WWE Volume 10.
The Jim Johnson anthology.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, Dan, that was emotional tonight.
It was great, man. It was good to see you again. And sure, I'll be seeing you in person next week because we're on a little day.
We're going to Second Captains Live at the National Stadium, one of my favourite Irish podcasts.
It'll be a delightful evening. But until then, Mero, if people want to listen to this podcast, they can do so by searching WTS Pod on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Podbean, Podcast Addict, Podcast Republic. Everywhere you can find a podcast will be there. He's at American Mania on the social media. I'm at Dan Joe Murray on the social media. And what did you sell at Cadbury's? The answer is Christmas puds, and they're fucking sensational. So until next time, Mero.
There it is.
Full hearts.
Can't lose.
Bruce Sweet.